me, how's it hanging? How's it happen? You guys know what it is. This is Kevin from the Chord Progression Podcast. The podcast on Sun Magazine describes as the one that initiates profound discussions with rock and metal artists, allowing fans to discover the creative workflow of their favorite musicians and understand the factors that make the band succeed or fall from fame. We are also sponsored by Dark Fusion Systems, the best for your custom computing needs. So get $100 off your entire building code CPPod at darkfusionsystems.com. Links to the podcast below. We're also the number 21 ranked metal music podcast on millionpodcast.com all across the world. So let's better that. Let's get to number one somehow. Don't know how, but we're going to get there. And this is going to be an episode that's going to add to it. So we're going all the way to Slovenia. I thought it was for the first time, but I forgot within instructions also from Slovenia. So this is for the second time. We bring Matic from Hei'An to the podcast. The band's second ever album, Kiss Our Ghost Goodbye, comes out on September 25th, 26th. I think it's 20. It's that weekend, basically. Not only do we dive deep into the two songs that have yet to be released that we are more excited for you to hear, but we also dive deep into what makes Hei'An an outstanding band in their own right, but also the lyrical idea of what Ghost had to be kissed goodbye from Matic's perspective. One that is specific to him, one that is specific to him but more relatable to the world, and one that just has a worldview to it. You guys ready for this one? Let's go! Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, listeners of the Chord Progression Podcast. The amount of times we've gone over to Europe to bring you some great music has been, honestly, I probably lost count at this point. Have we gone and interviewed bands from Europe 100 times? We might be around that mark right now over the course of almost 7 years. But we're not going to stop. We're going to keep doing it. But this time, I think we're going to a new location that we've ever gone to. We're going all the way to Slovenia for this one to bring you a modern metal, post-metal core mix when it comes to mixing metal, rock, pop, electronic music all into one. And if you're thinking, man, I really like a lot of types of different fusion in my heavy music, this is definitely where you want to sit. So the brand new album, Kiss Our Ghost Goodbye, coming out on September 26th, is going to be yours for the taking. But to not only get you into the album, but get you into the band as well, if you haven't heard about them, is going to happen right here today. So please welcome Matic from Hei'An to the podcast. So Matic, welcome to the Chord Progression Podcast.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. Hey.
Thank you for being on as we are getting even closer to the release of the brand new album. As I've always been asking many artists, we're getting up to that point. How are you feeling coming into the release day?
Oh, it's such an exciting time because we've been sitting on a lot of stuff in regards to this record for so long. We started writing it before the first one even dropped because we knew it's always a super long process from the moment you start till the moment it comes out. So all of this hard work that we've gone throughout all this time is finally starting to pay off, and we finally get to show the world what we've been doing all this time. So it's as exciting as it gets, I guess.
It's becoming less and less surprising to me to hear artists talk about the long time it's taking for them to release music, but not necessarily a long time for them to release music, but it's starting working on a brand new album before another album is already dropping. So when their first album, the debut album, dropped back in November of 2022, you guys were already working on the songs that ended up on Kiss Our Ghost Goodbye.
Yeah. I mean, we had a lot of ideas left over from the writing sessions for that record that really didn't stylistically fit onto it, but we knew that we could manage to make them sound very much Hei'An, just in kind of a new way. So the vision for this new record kind of started forming at that time already. And, also now we're approaching the release of the second album, and we already have some stuff left over that we might drop on our next release. So it's always an ongoing process. You're always kind of chasing yourself in the future in a way, and especially because we know how long the process is from the moment it's written and then recorded and mixed and mastered and blah, blah, blah. I feel like it's good to, start as early as possible if you have the motivation and the drive and the inspiration, so you're not forcing yourself, just so you make sure that, fans don't have to wait 5+ years for the next release, but they can get it in 2 or 3. That's kind of the goal. So yeah.
Oh, I'm well aware with you on that, because there are a couple of my favorite bands where it's one of them. It took them. They've been on like a release schedule like once every 4 years, and I'm just thinking I kind of would have hoped that there'd be more than that. Or my other favorite bands, they haven't released anything since 2021, and I'm sitting here thinking, is there anything that's going to be coming out at this point? It gets to be a little tedious and a little annoying. Again, I'm not mad about the fact that they're having a lot of success. I just want more new music. But the fact that you guys have been consistently not only working on the ideas that you've had from the previous album and kind of rolling them into the next one, but then continuing that process of constantly trying to work, constantly trying to do things, and constantly looking towards the future without basically mortgaging the presence at that point in time. What you're doing is it allows each album to have a cohesive flow to it, because I have seen bands and have seen albums where you go from one album to the next and it's like the band decided to go and do a complete left turn on something, and you listen to it and it just doesn't make any sense sonically in the flow of that overall evolution of sound. But it's like, okay, we just finished this one album. Like when you did finish the debut album in 2022, we have ideas that we still want to check out. But as time goes on, different influences come into play, and you see the morphing of those influences. So the songs and the ideas that were left over now have a mixture of both. And the songs that then were written specifically during the writing time of album number 2 now sit in with album number 2. But then it continues to flow on and go. So it's like a very cohesive journey going through Hei'An's music from first album to second album. And then it can very well continue that way from third to fourth to fifth to sixth.
For sure, definitely. I mean, I love that you use the word cohesive so much, because we always like for our, I mean, we're only releasing the second album now, so it's funny to say always, but we really love it when albums have a cohesive vibe to them, so that each record is unmistakably that record. And although we did do quite a leap in a lot of ways, and this new record is quite an evolution compared to the previous one, I still feel like it's very unmistakably Hei'An. Like we just took her sound and reinvented it a bit, but kept doing all of the things that made Hei'An with the first record. So yeah, I definitely agree with everything you said. That's just my point. Yeah.
Ooh, interesting. Now I just had a peek question in my head that really I think would bring a lot more people into Hei'An and get to understand you more going into album number 2, because you said when you came into album number 1 is like you notice things from album number 1 and album number 2 that's going to make it specifically Hei'An. What are some of those qualities from your perspective as the creator of this music that you see as the core identity of Hei'An?
Well, our music is so far, it has always been very, it always comes from a dark place at its core, both lyrically and sonically speaking. So it always has that kind of dark undertone. But at the same time, we always like to keep things, to have kind of a silver lining. We always try to find hope in the darkness, a light at the end of the tunnel. That's why most of our songs, although they come from a very depressing place, the lyrics might be super depressing, they always at least end with a positive note, and even instrumentally you can kind of hear that, maybe in the most recent single, What I Have to Save, which is a really, really upbeat one. So I would say, we like to fuse darkness with some hope, which is something that I feel like not that many artists are doing nowadays, to mostly just focus on the dark, which is totally fine, but we like to find some light as well. And we've always liked fusing styles together, because we all come from very different musical backgrounds. We listen to a bunch of different stuff, definitely not metal only, just that metal always seems to be the genre we fall back on throughout all of these years. But we still listen to a lot of other stuff, and we just felt it'd be fun to incorporate it as much as we can into the stuff that we write and we release. So already with the first record, we wanted to explore that kind of pop sensibility, especially in the vocals and the vocal melodies, fused with a more metal sound. And then with the second album, although, as I said, it's quite a leap, especially in terms of production, we pretty much went and explored the exact same things. We wanted to explore the pop sensibility even more by making it even poppier and even more, reminiscent of the Billboard Top 100 type of production. I'm talking just production-wise, not success-wise. That, and also the heavy, we wanted to make it even heavier and have that contrast going on, because, I always feel like having those contrasts within one single song makes it even more cinematic, because, you have those peaks and drops and everything, and it just tells the story even better. So yeah, I just said a bunch of sentences. I hope that would condense it into less sentences to answer what the core of Hei'An is. But what I just said, I feel like is the core of our sound.
But how else are we going to understand the full core if not only we don't listen to it, but we don't really get an understanding of where the ideas are coming from the mindset and the overall creative aspect of Hei'An? When going through, of course, album number 2, Kiss Our Ghosts Goodbye, when you brought up the idea of not only putting out a sonic place that kind of picks up on that darkness in the world, but focusing in on where we can find the hope through that darkness, it does make a lot of sense, especially with a lot of the openings of these songs, kind of setting the tone for that darkness and setting the tones for, like, if you're driving on a road late at night and you don't see any light in the distance, you just see a big black hole that's just right in front of you. It makes a lot of sense to go down that, because if that's really where you're thinking of, where your mindset is, and also maybe where your overall influence is, why not put it out there? There are plenty of artists that are focusing in on a lot more of the negativity, a lot more of the darkness in the world. And don't get me wrong, it's not a bad idea to shed some light on those subjects, but hope can be one of the most powerful things throughout all of humanity. Without hope, people just give up. People don't care. People don't have the strive in order to try and better their situation or to get somewhere that's going to make them a lot happier. If they don't have that hope, they become cathartic. They just become complacent, and they don't have any inspiration or mobility to do anything. It's really sad, and it's kind of being able to break through that and say, even when you're going through so many different things, even when life seems rough, even when life seems like the darkest thing ever, there's going to be that sliver of hope that you can hold on to and continue to move forward, because the closer you move to that hope, you might have to go through some peaks, you might go through some valleys, you might get, beat up along the way mentally, but you're going to see that hope start to grow and get closer and closer to the point where now you're out of the darkness. You don't have to be in there anymore. And the best thing you could do in that point in time was keep going, keep looking for that, and not being stuck in the fact that I am in the darkness and there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah, 100% agreed. 100% agreed. This is, this was kind of the point of this record in a way, and also, the concept of the first one plays into that very well. But with this second album, when I was writing it, especially lyrically speaking, first of all, I wanted to do kind of I shifted my mindset a bit when writing, because the first record was super, super, super introspective lyrically. With this second one, it still is in a lot of ways, but I really tried to, think about other topics as well, and think about topics I didn't explore yet, and look outwards a bit more. But at the end of the day, I always came back to, certain specific either traumatic experience I've had, or negative thoughts I've had, or medical issues that I've had, shit like that, and just looking at certain world events that we can get into later, but all of that kind of stuff, and all of these things, all of these songs, I used them as sort of when I was writing them, as sort of a cathartic thing to try to work through those issues. So I viewed those things as ghosts that were haunting me, hence the album title. So when I was writing the songs, I wanted to kiss those ghosts goodbye, or go, work through all the trauma if I could. And, I really wanted to relay that onto the listener, so that, they could hopefully connect with some of these lyrics. And if they have ghosts of their own that are hunting them, then maybe through these songs, they could, kiss them goodbye as well. So,
I think in an odd way, everyone has some of those ghosts that they want to just kiss goodbye. No one is perfect in this world. And whether it's ghosts that are internal or external ghosts that are forcing you to do things that are internal, you want to end up kissing them goodbye. You want to send them on their way, because the longer you hold on to them, it's like the more power they have over you. I think about so many different stories of people who, like, it's like one thing happens to them in life. Yeah, it could be bad. It could be sad. I understand that. But then it's that thing is the thing that gets blamed on for everything going wrong in life going forward. And it's just, okay, that is then becomes the most defining moment of your life, because instead of this moment just being, a moment in time, you let it be the thing that defined you for the rest of your life. That's a ghost that can keep haunting you for the rest of your life. And if you don't end up breaking through that, essentially exorcising it and kissing it goodbye, you're never going to get to a place where you actually want to go in life. You're always going to be blaming it on that one thing that happened, on that one ghost that keeps you down. And the thing that's keeping you down in a way is your own self. And if you can't have that introspection in order to realize what's going on and then work through that, you're never going to get away from it. And you're never going to have that moment of essential revelation that you could be so much more than you even thought you could be beyond that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, every, kind of trauma that you go through, and, when I see trauma, it doesn't have to be anything super monumental. It can be something really, really big and something really horrible, but it doesn't have to be. It can be just trivial little things that, happen on a daily basis that can really, really, drag a person down and, stop you from, I don't know, getting to a point where you want to get in life or whatever. And yeah, every kind of traumatic experience or traumatic thought or whatever, it's always a part of you. It's not like you can negate it or just pretend it didn't exist. I don't think that's a healthy way of dealing with stuff. But you do always have to acknowledge it and work through it. And yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to do with these songs. To me, music is, I mean, it's not like I've never been to actual therapy. I have, but music to me is sort of my therapy. And that's why, you know what, I'm trying to put this positive vibe into it wherever I can so that it can, you know, possibly be therapeutic to some other people. So, yeah.
Well, music to anybody that really dives deep into it is therapeutic, whether it's, you know, yourself as an artist, myself as, you know, just being able to talk about music on a consistent basis on a platform like this, or any of the people that I get to go and see concerts with that just love this kind of music and just love music in general. There's a therapy aspect behind it. We go to those shows because we know that for that time being, whether it's, you know, we're just seeing one band for an hour, or we're going to be there for the whole entire show for all 3, 4, 5 bands, whatever it is. In that moment, all the shit that's going on in the world doesn't matter. Everything that's bad necessarily gets put on hold for a little bit. And while, yes, you don't want to just forget about that stuff and not have it be there and just push it off because it's going to end up coming back every time and time again. But if you get those moments where you get to feel that pure euphoria of just passion, life, energy, like a concert, honestly, you get that hope to be inspired within you, and you get to find that spot. It's like, okay, when everything is going wrong, I at least can go to this. It's that thing to kind of bring back the hope, bring back that positivity, so that when you leave, it's like, okay, the next day, I feel like I have a much more positive outlook. I feel like I have much more strength emotionally to be able to attack this and essentially get past this.
For sure. Yeah, that's, you know, I know we're all saying it all the time and it sounds cliche at this point, but it's so very true that music definitely does have that power to just, you know, lock you in for that. Whether you're listening to a song for 3 minutes and a half, and for those 3 minutes and a half, you're just there and nowhere else. And you know, it just, as you said, it gives you that euphoria, that hope, that, you know, escape that you might need from something. Concerts are an even better way. Having, you know, for me, doing shows and going to shows are some of, you know, my favorite things in life, just because of what you just said. So yeah, I agree 100% on that as well.
Well, I mean, you could probably attest to this too, but it's much more powerful even being up on stage, being the one supplying that moment than just the one being in the crowd and enjoying that moment and being a part of that moment. Granted, I'm not saying, you know, it's worse being just an attendee at a show. It's great being an attendee at a show, but when you're the one that's putting your heart and soul out into the music, and you're the one that's creating the moment for so many different people up on stage, it's a completely different feeling that I'm probably never going to be able to experience. But hearing the experiences of so many people talking about it, it's more powerful than almost anything you could imagine.
Definitely. One of my favorite moments on stage is when, you know, I get people just scream our own lyrics at us, and even if it's just 10 people, let alone if there's more, you know, it's not even defined by the number of people in the room. But, you know, when you see, you know, the people in the first few rows, or, you know, let alone a full venue, just screaming your lyrics back at you and crying, and you can see on their faces how happy they are to be there, and the euphoria on their face and everything, that just probably one of my favorites, if not my, you know, the favorite feeling in life. So yeah, it's pretty indescribable. It's amazing.
It's indescribable, but also very understandable, because if you've been in a show, I mean, you've probably, especially as an attendee, you may have felt that sheer feeling of euphoria. So you understand what that feels like. And can you imagine like what it would feel like if you were the one that caused that? If you're the one that supplied that moment to that individual?
It's the best kind of high. It's the best kind of high, for sure.
It honestly is. But kind of jumping back into the album with Kiss Our Ghosts Goodbye, you said that especially when it came to writing this album lyrically from a thematic standpoint, you know, you're dealing with different types of ghosts that you were looking through to really essentially exorcise throughout this. So when writing the album, what were some of those moments that really inspired you to have to pull away from those ghosts and kiss them goodbye?
Yeah, so first of all, since the first record was a concept album, when I started writing the lyrics for the second one, I wanted to really, you know, not burden myself, so to speak, with an overlaying concept from the get-go, because I just felt like maybe I could try to explore some things that I haven't explored before necessarily, or not in that kind of way, by, you know, just writing every song as I went and then seeing what happens. And then, you know, interestingly enough, even though the second album is not a concept album per se, the songs do follow a very common thread. The lyrics that came out of it just kind of, you know, ended up working together cohesively very well. thematically speaking. And I really had three main kind of themes that I explored in this record from different standpoints and in subtly different ways. And one was my sexuality, because that was something that I didn't get to explore with my first record. In between album 1 and album 2, I finally publicly came out as bisexual. My partner, Aljaž, our harsh vocalist in the band, is actually my partner, and we came out publicly in between. So that was something new that we kind of explored lyrically. And we didn't really make the songs coming out songs or love songs or whatever. We pretty much, I explored stuff that, negative stuff that we had to go through because of that. Parts of society rejecting us, some certain really people that used to be close to us shutting us off completely after coming out, stuff like that. So that's one thing. A second thing that I really explored, because it was also fresh, was my MS diagnosis, which happened a couple of years ago after the first record was released. So obviously, as soon as I got that, it felt like the darkest moment in my life. At that, in that short period, I felt like, this is the end of my life. I cannot do anything anymore. This is it, But luckily, no, that's not the case. I'm doing well. The medication's working. But this is also one. Thank you. This is also one big thing that I kind of explored, and I didn't just make it about my MS, but I tried to explore themes of, certain medical stuff being thrown at you and how hard that can be, but how you can still find hope no matter how, dark it looks in that moment. And then the third main theme was just me looking outwards. As I said, I really tried to do that lyrically in this record, and just seeing, the decaying state of the world right now, in my opinion. I mean, I feel like we as a society have been really, really working hard, and we're really successful for quite a long time at making the world a better place. And I feel like there was less and less bigotry, less and less homophobia, less and less racism in the world, and that we were kind of moving into, closer to a perfect society, whatever that is, and if that's even achievable. But, in recent years, I've kind of seen all of that falling apart a lot, and I've seen a lot of that progress being undone all over the world. And, it obviously fueled a lot of my frustrations and anger. And so part of the record is sort of about, this existential part of things, and just, being angry about the state of the world right now. So those three main themes were kind of what kept popping up. And yeah, then as I was writing, I realized that even though it's not a concept album, I definitely do have a common thread going on here. And that's when I realized what the common thread was. And that's when I came up with the story of these ghosts that I want to kiss goodbye, and that I want, the message that I want to put on to listeners so that they could kiss their ghosts goodbye as well. So yeah, these were kind of my trauma that I worked through.
Well, it makes sense to work through those three different aspects. And even in that capacity, just to kind of classify them in different ways, when you're thinking about, working through your sexuality through these lyrics and through these, that seems like, again, it's something that would be a little bit more specific with how it turned out on your end. And not many people are going to specifically be able to relate, because not as many people in the world are going to have a very similar sexuality to you. Again, I'm not saying anything bad about that. It's just that it has more of like a specific aspect to where you are, where when you bring up the medical portion of it, it's something that's specific to you, but it has a little bit more of a relatable concept, because there are many people that have gone in and have medical diagnoses or different pieces that have changed their lives forever and have had to deal with it, with just getting it thrown right at them. But then you look at the state of the world and where everything is going there, that's something that everybody is experiencing. So each specific thing, it was like something that's a little bit more specific, now a little bit more relatable, now something that everyone is experiencing. So you're taking from a thematic standpoint, from a listener's perspective, you're hitting on so many different aspects of kissing different types of ghosts goodbye, no matter what it is. But when it comes to your own style of it, and when it comes to exactly what you're working through this, I mean, you really dove deep into things that people have been afraid to dive deep into with their music for I don't know how long. When it comes to diving deep into the state of the world, of course, that's not something I would say is, the most unique thing, because there's plenty of bands that have always dove into that type of thing. Sure. But I do understand where you're coming from too, where it looks like there are aspects of society where there are certain things that were progressing forward, there were certain things that were harmonizing a little bit stronger, and now through different aspects and actions over the past 5 to 10 years, we can even use the pandemic as like that cutoff time. Yeah. It's like there's a lot of things that have completely deteriorated since then, based on just how the world has gone over. That's not something that people have, never talked about throughout the history of time and music. But talking about your MS diagnosis and your sexuality as well, that's something that's a lot more specific for you. But at the same time, you're working through that, and we get to see and understand having to work through these specific things that not only may have been fearful in order to get past them, but also the hope that you can find within those things and the hope that you can go forward. I'll bring up the medical diagnosis, especially because that's something that can come out of nowhere. That's something that can just happen, and then your life and where everything you thought you were going to go in life, it just completely gets wiped away, and you're massively scared because you weren't scared about the unknown. What you're mostly probably scared about that time was the known that you had, especially going forward in the future, ending. Now it's completely new. You have no idea what to expect. And there's a lot of people that, again, like we said, fall into that one aspect. This is the one thing in life, and it completely ruins the rest of their life because they don't ever work through that or work past that. Now being able to not only go through that and work through that along with your sexuality as well on this album, to be able to harness exactly what it is, be able to find the hope in there and be able to build off of that hope. Take a look at where you are now, and I got to ask you this question. By working through those different aspects on Kiss Our Ghosts Goodbye, do you find yourself mentally in a better place now than you did before you worked on the album?
Yeah, for sure. Because, I mean, one big thing with, writing lyrics for this album was also that so you mentioned that, both the sexuality aspect and the medical diagnosis aspect are a little more specific and maybe a little harder to relate because they're really specific to me. But I just figured that if I want to be 100% honest as an artist and really use this opportunity to work through all of this myself truly and not just fake it, and B, so that people would truly feel the emotion that I'm feeling, I can't be too vague. I need to express exactly what I wanted to express in the lyrics. And I feel like, people can still project their own issues, onto my lyrics if they want to, if they just, have that little bit of flexibility. But with the sexuality aspect, as I mentioned, we were hiding our relationship for the longest time, and then we only came out a few years ago, truly. And so writing about that was a really scary thing, because I knew, okay, now I'm writing it, now I'm safe, but fast forward a year or two, this is going to be out. People are going to be able to hear this, read this. What are they going to think? And I'm really happy that I kind of use that to my advantage to really work through that fear and realize that I really shouldn't care what people think. If they're accepting, that's great. If they're not, I don't need people like that in my life in any capacity. So whatever. If they don't like me, that's cool. I probably don't like them in that case. So it was kind of an empowering thing for me personally to work through that in that kind of way. And with the MS thing, as I mentioned, it did came out of the blue when the diagnosis happened. It was so random, just one day I actually, the way it happened was I lost sight in my left eye. Just one morning I woke up and I didn't see shit in my left eye. Went to see the doctor. At first they thought that maybe I'm just gonna need glasses or something, and they saw that it was a more serious thing. Got the diagnosis, and at that moment I felt like, because I read a bit about it online, and you should never do that too much. Just trust your doctor, because Google's gonna tell you you're gonna die tomorrow. So don't Google your diseases too much. But at that time it felt like something that would define me forever, and something that would just end everything I aspired to be. That would put my musical career to a way premature end. And through the course of time, and luckily it didn't take me too long to realize this, I realized that it doesn't have to be that way. I can, there's so many artists, and not just artists, there's so many just people killing it in their own ways, successful entrepreneurs, successful businessmen, successful athletes, successful anything, that also have serious medical challenges, but still manage to do so much with their life and still manage to be as happy as they possibly can be. And because they accept all of that about themselves, they can sometimes end up being happier than the average healthy person. And when I realized that, I really wanted to work through that much more with the songs and with the lyrics. And I feel like I for sure did. I mean, all of these things that I just mentioned, it's not like none of it haunts me anymore whatsoever, ever. I can still get, moments of darkness with those topics as well. It's not like if I, write a song that I'm never gonna feel bad about that topic anymore ever in my life. Sadly, it's not like that. but it for sure helped. I do feel like I'm, in a much more positive headspace since this record was written, for sure.
Well, of course, you're still going to have those moments where like the darkness ends up coming back and you end up living in some of that space for a while, but it comes fewer and further between. It's kind of like, I think the best way I ever saw it described was when it comes to describing grief is like a ball in a box. And every time the ball hits one of the walls of the box, you end up feeling that feeling of grief. And right when it happens, that ball is huge. So even the slightest movement of it will hit the wall. But over time, the box doesn't grow or shrink. It's the ball that ends up shrinking. So it ends up, of course, hitting the wall every now and again because it's constantly moving. But it's hitting the wall a lot less because there's so much less of a chance for it to do so. So it's kind of like being able to work through that and process through that, where those moments are going to come back every once in a while, but they're going to come fewer and further between because you've been able to process through that. Very similar with the MS diagnosis. And like when it comes to being able to work through your sexuality and put that out there, yeah, I can understand the fear that comes from that because of you're always going to be curious about and afraid of what the people close to you going to think about it, what it's your family going to think about, what society think about, what's your overall connection, especially in the music world, going to think about it. But it's very similar then to the ending of the movie 8 Mile with Eminem with the rap battle where he just lays everything out that he's going to get said about him in there. And it's, okay, I worked through all this. I just said this. What are you actually going to say against me that's going to be new? What are you going to say against me that's going to hurt me? Because if you're going to try to say, I can say, yeah, I already said that. So what's next? What else are you going to do about it? Essentially, you're owning that moment. You work through it to own that moment. And you did that on this record. You owned it.
Exactly. Yeah, 100% agreed. I love the ball in the box analogy, by the way. But yeah, this is pretty much exactly how it is. And with the sexuality thing, I'm actually pretty surprised that we're getting way fewer hate comments than I thought we would, especially about it. So that's good. But even every time we do get them, it's exactly that's my mind, process in my head, what you just described. It's like, okay, yeah, I've heard that one before. What else can you throw at me? It's all good. So yeah, I agreed on that too.
Oh, I understand that. And when I was a kid, there was stuff that, like, especially, as brothers, my brother, he's a year and a half older than me, would always make fun of me for the most insane things and would always say some of the most intense, heinous things you possibly could. So all of a sudden I got it on my own and like tried doing different things. And people were against me doing it, or they were always trying to put me down, whether it was in a professional sense, whether it was a music sense, just a life sense. My thought process was always, even if it was something new that I'd never experienced, is that all you got? Because when I was a kid, my brother said stuff way worse. There's no way you're going to defeat him in this. You can't make me feel bad about this because you're never going to top what he did. Which is a weird thing to say, but I'm like, you know what? You look at it and it's weird, but you own that moment. You end up taking, it's like you take a dark moment and you take the power from it and you turn it into a moment of positivity for yourself. You turn it a moment of positivity for yourself and the people around you, and you don't get stuck in that darkness for quite a long time. Again, we're trying to find hope through the darkness. And at that point in time, it's being able to be so strong in the hope that when the darkness comes back, it's so easy to kick it.
It does get easier every time. I mean, I guess you can always get new traumatic stuff that can come, thrown at you. But in terms of each specific thing, it does get easier over time, especially if you work through it with such such an introspective vibe and with such an ability to truly dive deep into yourself and into the situation and what exactly is going on, and tackle it from all ends and from all different viewpoints. And yeah, it's an empowering thing for sure. I feel like through the course of the year since I got diagnosed, for instance, and now that this record's coming out, and with me getting more and more support for all of these things that we just mentioned, which is also an incredibly positive, overwhelmingly positive feeling. I do feel like none of these things can hurt me nearly as much as they used to. Just even just thinking about my MS is becoming a much more casual thing. It's like, oh yeah, I have it, but I'm good. The medication's working. Then I'm fine. So it's a process. It's always a process, but it always makes us stronger. So you should thank your brother.
It always makes you stronger. And I do want to dive a little bit different in the album in this capacity. So at the time of recording this, I was looking through what has been out right now. And there are 4 singles that have been released on the album thus far. I am not going to ask you what your favorite song is on the record, because there are so many songs I know mean so much to you. It's going to be like picking a favorite child, and I'm not going down that road. I'm going to go about it in a little different capacity. Like I said, 4 songs have been released as singles. There are 10 on this record, so that means there are 6 remaining. Out of those 6 that have yet to be released, which is the song you are most excited for people to hear and why?
Ooh, okay. I mean, as you said, I love all of them for sure, but maybe Undertow, because what's interesting about it is that it's not a single for a multitude of reasons, but it is one of the funkiest songs on the record. I feel like in terms of the genre fusion thing, because it has some of the poppiest stuff on the record, one of the heaviest breakdowns on the record. It has a really weird proggy riff thrown in there that just kind of works, although it feels like it shouldn't, but it does. The chorus is one of my favorite choruses on the record, just because it's such an interesting one, because it's such a simple one in terms of melody. Like, there are very few notes, but it just catches and it works. So for all of these reasons, I'm really curious to see what people will think when they hear it, because it's a big clusterfuck of a song, but at the same time it kind of works and it's still catchy. Yeah, it's a fun one. So maybe this one.
I'm not surprised that you said that one, because again, going through everything, I even put my overall. I said I had a great idea with the mixture and heaviness in the backing and the programming of that mystery to create this external exposure overall idea for us. So there had this feeling of just a great concept that was going to be put into a song. And when you brought up the chorus specifically, the way those clean vocals work and the backing slows up, gets a little less intense, it allows a little bit of that like extra programming to show that exposure to the mystery of what we're working through the song Undertow, and the guitar that is shredding in the background. It allows you to further expand your mind, but also in a constructive way, just the way the chorus is flowing. It feels like you're lost, but going to be found in what this song is attempting to succeed at, and it does. I said this is going to be another winner for sure, based on how this chorus just builds on and creates that moment of essentially completely finding that hope in the darkness, latching onto it, never letting go.
For sure. Yeah, this one truly does latch on to the hope in a lot of ways. It's definitely one of the most hopeful songs on the record, which might not be as evident from the first 20 seconds of it, but it does progress into the more positive things. And yeah, this one also, since you mentioned the programming, this one production-wise was a really interesting one, because it felt like we got to be kind of bold with it. We have some really, really weird old school sounding dubstep-y synths going on in one of the parts. They're kind of low in the mix, but they add a lot of texture to the song. We have certain little samples, like little jingly bits, jingly stuff that our bass player said that it reminds me of Post Malone, of a few Post Malone tracks, which was really exciting to have that kind of comparison made in a metal song. So yeah, it was one of the more fun ones to tackle sonically. So maybe that's why I pointed it out, but. Yeah, it's a big mix of stuff.
It is a big mix of stuff, and being able to take that liberty of, especially the programming, and trying different things with it and being more experimental with it, allows you to take an idea and expand on it further. It doesn't allow you to. It doesn't constrict you. It doesn't help you stay in a box. It helps you to expand so much further on it that you're not necessarily sure where it's going to go, but you're excited to see where the overall outcome is.
For sure. And here we can again come back to that, which I briefly touched on earlier, that contrast thing that I really, really like, that we all really like to put into our songs, where a song feels so much more of a story if the dynamics shift more within one song. And this one is a great example of that. It starts really, really chill, then you have some big peaks in dynamics, then you have drops, and then you go back to the high intensity part. And I feel like by doing that, you let go of all obstructions in your mind and just get to create whatever you like, and feel that much more free as an artist. And as a direct consequence of that, I feel like the message, just the way the lyrics are supported by the song, is just that much stronger, that much more storytelling, and hopefully hits the audience much more in an emotional way. So yeah, that's what we try to achieve with this one.
Well, you definitely went for it, and you definitely achieved it in a number of different capacities, so you did succeed there. The one thing you didn't succeed on was picking the song that I thought you were going to pick, so there's a different one I want to ask about and bring up, because the one that I'd be most excited for people to hear is the song right before Undertow, which is Beneath the Sinking Moon.
Okay, yeah, that's an interesting one. That's an interesting one. We're all fans of synthwave and darkwave, and we felt like we really, really wanted to incorporate in at least one of the songs in this record. We might be playing around with that kind of sound in the future because we love how it turned out as well. And yeah, just we listen to a lot of Carpenter Brute and artists like that who are just these big with this big heavy darkwave synths that are not necessarily part of the metal world, but still hit you almost like they were. And we try to make that, metal. And one really interesting thing about this song is actually the song where, because most of the lyrics I write myself, but with this one, Aliaj, my partner and our harsh vocalist, had a lot, and a lot bigger input with the lyrics for this one. And it's interesting because he comes from a much more black metal background. He mostly listens to black. And you can really kind of feel that in the lyrics, but we still, I mean, just the title, Beneath the Sinking Moon, sounds like it could be straight from a, Watain album. But, we still kind of made those lyrics, although they sound black metal-y, very much Hei'An, and still kind of made them poppy in the chorus and stuff like that. So yeah, this one's also a really interesting one and also a genre-bending one for sure. And yeah, we'll probably be playing around more with that kind of sound in the future. I can say that for sure.
I'll say it was nuts, but the thing I picked up on that song specifically was a little bit more of the pattern of the way the song was constructed from, of course, just how the verse and the chorus interact with each other. Yeah, we got some more of that synthwave on there. Yeah, we got some more of that electronic piece on there. But I thought that you guys were definitely inspired by the band Chevelle, just given how the pattern of the vocals were and how the pattern of the instrumentals were in the back. I was sitting there, and after the verses, I literally wrote here, I'm like, I don't want to go so damn similar to another band, but please build on more of that like Chevelle reference, because this could be something more grand than you guys ever thought. The pre-chorus, it expands on it, and that pattern is still there. The chorus hits, and it's a more melodic, drawn-out feel, and it kind of still has that Chevelle inspiration there, but there is so much more beyond it. And the outro hits with a more aggressive, maybe post-metalcore style bridge and breakdown with the uncleans, but the backing maintained that inspiration throughout the whole entire song, and it just worked to mix that synthwave idea from the programming in with the way the vocals were working, just with the way the pattern had been created. It was, for me, in my opinion, the clear winner on the album in terms of my favorite song. That was the one that I could just latch onto from everything I thought that you guys were going to do in this track. Not only did well, but everything just cohesively worked together in such a great way that if anyone asked me, okay, Hei'An, one track, which one should I listen to? That's the one I'm pointing them to.
Okay, wow, thank you so much for saying that. Well, I'm glad you liked it so much. I mean, yeah, it's interesting that you say that because we did debate whether this one should also be a single or not. But of course, we had to, at some point, we had to decide on a finite number of singles. We can't just release the full album before the full album's out. So it just barely didn't make the cut. It almost was a single. But yeah, I would agree. That's also a really strong song. It's different. It's interesting that you picked up on the Chevelle reference because we didn't really have them in mind that much. Of course, we do listen to them, but maybe we didn't have them in mind for this song specifically that much. But now that you mention it, I do see it and I do hear it for sure. But yeah, and also for me, vocally, it was an interesting song because it has my highest melodic, recorded clean note that I ever sung right towards the end of it. So, curious to see how that's going to sound live. Gonna do my best. But yeah, just glad you liked it, man. Wow, you just said so many cool stuff about it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, if I was going to bring you onto the podcast, we're going to be talking about your brand new album. If I didn't go through it, write down my thoughts on it, and actually take the time to be introspective about it, I wouldn't be doing my job. And that's not something I can handle. Like, I got to make sure I do this, and I got to make sure I do this right.
Love it, man. Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. See, it's as the album is set to come out on September 26th. Of course, we've got 25th. Did I get the day wrong?
Yeah, it's 25th. It's 25th.
I got the day wrong. I'm going to blame too many hits to the head on that one.
Right, no worries, man. No worries at all. I mean, 25th, 26th doesn't make that much of a difference. So.
It's that time frame. But when the album comes out, we're going to have 3 more months for the rest of 2025, and then we're jumping into 2026. So I guess the main question is, after the album releases, what's next for Hei'An?
Okay, yeah, we a lot of really exciting stuff. I mean, on October 24th and 25th, we are, commemorating the release of this record with our most ambitious live project so far. It's already been announced like a week or two ago. We're doing a 2-day release festival here in Ljubljana, Slovenia. We're headlining both days. We have two different openers each night, two different sets. The first night is, just the new album front to back, and then the second one is a special set, still focusing on the new album, of course, but a few surprises. We're gonna have, a Hei'An custom beer. We're gonna have a food truck. So, a really, really ambitious live project
Mhm.
for us. It's not like gonna be a 10,000 people festival. It's
Mhm.
like a 500 people festival. Obviously, it's a small scale, but it's still super ambitious at the stage we're at right now. And it's actually going to be the only Heian live performance in 2025 because we are right now in the process of booking a tour for 2026. I can't announce anything regarding it yet specifically because it's all still in the works. But we do have a desired route planned out already. We did start the process already. We are already talking with the bands that are probably going to end up being on the entire tour package. So things are moving, and I'm really hoping we'll be able to announce this before the release festival happens. That'd be ideal. So there's that. We also, we all love electronic music a lot, and since we have a lot of electronic elements on this record, we're also really, really more and more intrigued by the idea of maybe doing a remix EP of this record at some point soon. We've already started, talking with some electronic producers that we personally know to see if, something cool comes out. No promises yet, but
Mhm.
I feel like we might drop something like that in the near future too. And apart from all that, we're always looking for support slots on different tours. The festival, festival pitching is gonna start really, really soon now that this year's festival season is over. So we're hoping to, hit the road as much as we can in
Mhm.
2026. Part of it is already looking quite good. And as I mentioned, we're already writing new stuff that will hopefully be able to drop in like 2 years or three max. So always keeping ourselves busy.
Well, it's going to be exciting to see exactly what happens going into 2026 with 2025 pretty much already still planned out for the last couple of months. Not only an
Mm,
ambitious idea with your own festival and your own inspired beer, which I
mm.
kind of want to have a taste of, but I don't think that's going to happen given my schedule. But what are you going to do about that? Beyond that, though, when 2026 hits, yeah, now that with 2 albums out, with more music that's out there as well, yeah, get out on the road, go and tour, get around Europe, get around festival season, see what happens. Now's the time to be able to do that, and you have another album that's going to be there by the time that happens. It's like, okay, there's more music that can be played. There's more of a dynamic that can be approached here. Not only what tours can you guys do, but also what other support slots can you get on a tour package that's absolutely going to work out to your advantage. So there's a lot to happen here. The biggest thing is going to be you guys just got to go and do it.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's always like that. It's always like that. I mean, all of this stuff does take a lot of planning and a lot of preparations and a lot of everything. But at the end of the day, yeah, you just gotta go and do it. And the interesting thing is that, for us being, the small new up and coming metal band from Slovenia, who a lot of people in the world haven't even heard of, it always kind of felt like we're up against this immovable object, and making this thing work would be impossible for us because it just, we don't have the right circumstances going on or whatever. But throughout this few years that we've been doing this, and these two releases that we've done, and then the first album cycle that was really successful for us in terms of, live stuff, because we did perform on quite a few major festivals as well. We really saw that the main thing is just go out and do it. If you really want to make it happen, you can make it happen. None of this stuff is impossible. It does take a shit ton of work and effort and sacrifices and funding. Fuck it, but
Yeah.
you know, anybody can do it. Anybody. I'm not saying we're super big yet in any way, not at all. But we are working towards it. My most, the most important thing for me is that at every step of the way, we love what we're doing right now, and we're not just focused on what the future might bring. And I'm really, really happy to say that the band is in that headspace, that even if we're doing really small club shows for now, we still enjoy the hell out of them. And that's, I guess, the main point. So, yeah,
Just
always
remember
working
what
at
that
it.
Shia LaBeouf video from like 10 years ago said. Just do it.
Yeah.
Don't let your dreams be dreams.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah. As funny and weird as that was, he was right. He was actually right. So,
Yeah, that's I've brought up in the podcast multiple times. It's like, yeah,
Mm.
it's weird, but he's right and it fits. So Just
exactly.
do it.
Exactly. We're all trying to just do it.
Yep. Well, it's got one more question before we wrap this up. It's something I like to ask every artist I bring on the podcast, way for not only us to get to know more new music, but to get to know more music that you love specifically. So I got to limit it to 3, otherwise we could be here all day. But can you name me 3 bands or artists that you love that you would love to see more people get into?
Ooh, that I love more people get into. So smaller artists, I assume that's the focus.
That's the focus, yeah.
Okay. Well, I have to give a shout out to our boys from Slovenia as well, Within Destruction, who just got signed to Sumerian Records this year. They also live here in Ljubljana where I live, so it's so amazing to see our super small scene kind of getting more and more recognition worldwide through bands like that. So shout out to them for sure. And they're killing it already, so it's not like they're a small artist, but they could be even bigger. They are on the way to be even bigger, and I really hope they will get even bigger. So that'd be one for sure. Then, let me think. Oh, there's one that I recently stumbled across on TikTok. Via Nova is the name of the band. Not sure if that's the correct pronunciation. I think it might be.
Yeah, I think it is.
And they're also not the smallest band in the world, but they're not the biggest band in the world either. And when I heard their stuff on TikTok, it just blew my mind because I'm not used to. I mean, I did get some quality suggestions on TikTok before, but most of it is not that good in my opinion. But Via Nova really stood out, and I immediately had to go save them on Apple Music and go check the whole discography out, whatever they put out so far. So that'd be one band. That's also one band that I love to tour with someday. Hopefully we can make it happen. And then, one that's not a metal band at all, another Slovenian artist, but with mostly English lyrics, so it doesn't have to have just a Slovenian audience. He's an electronic producer, mostly does hyperpop, and his name is Nomark. Nomark, I guess, would be the more Anglo-Saxon pronunciation. And he's also, a really cool guy from here, from Ljubljana, doing some really sick hyperpop. And he's also starting to get international recognition in recent years, and he's been getting more international audiences than Slovenian audience, at least on Spotify and Instagram and stuff like that. So I definitely want to give a shout out to him too, and get people to listen to him. So that would be the 3. I mean, this list could change at any time. If you ask me in an hour, I might name 3 different artists. But for now, these are the 3 that I would name.
So that was a good 3, and I do have to make a correction then when I said this might be the first time we've ever been to Slovenia. This is going to be the second time we've ever been to Slovenia because Within Destruction has been on the podcast before.
Okay,
so.
Hell yeah, let's go.
I gotta remake that correction. Well, Matic, I do want to thank you for taking the time being on the podcast today. I truly appreciate you being here, and I got to end this episode with 3 things. So first things first, Hei'An's brand new album, Kiss or Ghost Goodbye, comes out September 25th, 26th. It's around that time. It's that weekend. So be sure to go listen to the album. Be sure to go save it. Be sure to go stream it when it's out and go and support the band by going to the description of the podcast where it says find Hei'An online. Link symbols for everything are going to be down there, so you can follow them on social media, see them play live when they go out on the road, listen to the music, and just become a fan. It's all down there for you, so you don't have to go and look it up yourself. I'm doing it for you. Matic, now it's time for number 2. Whenever I've guests in the podcast, joining the podcast, I tend to make a certain promise way to say thank you. I appreciate you taking the time. And I wish you continue to support the band in the future. And I typically start this up by saying when, because I don't have a day or time yet, but it will happen. So when I get to see you perform live for the first time, unfortunately, it's not going to be when you have your own, Hei'An beer out there. But when I can see you perform live for the first time, I will find you. I will come and say hello to you. But the real promise is that first round's on me.
All right. Sounds good. We love people like that. So hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Perfect. And now it's time to bring this episode to close by saying number 3, which is I cannot end this podcast by saying goodbye. That is way too final. I made you a promise. I got to make good on that promise. And I would love to bring you back in the podcast in the future to talk more about the great music that you guys are making. So goodbye is too final. This has to be. I'll see you later.
Perfect. Thank you.
Well, folks, I made a review with Matic from Hei'An, and now it's time for Kevin's final thought. This is where I'm going to go with this final thought. So, lyrically, when we talk about Kiss Our Ghosts Goodbye, I really enjoyed what Matic was able to do on this, not only from picking the 3 things that he wanted to work through on this, but showing it in a much more individualistic capacity. A capacity from an individual that you can relate to and one that has that worldwide scope of a view. So Of course, the worldwide scope of the view, with the way society has gone throughout the past couple of years, we've seen many bands talk about this, especially with more of the hardcore and punk scene. We've seen many bands focus in with the darkness that's behind it and the overall pain, anguish that's behind it, and really hammer away on that. And we get it. And, Hei'An did something like that too with a little bit of a different twist, which we will get to. When he talked about his diagnosis with MS, yeah, that's something that's going to be specific for him, but it can be relatable to all of us, because how many times have we gone to the doctor for something and they told us that maybe something wasn't right, or we have a family member or a friend where they said, hey, we found something that isn't right, and then just the absolute turn of events that it takes not only for you but also for the person, mostly for the person, that it absolutely impacts dramatically. I mean, it's something that we can all relate to in a specific capacity, but it absolutely connects us to the feeling of having to deal with that going forward, and what complete idea we had for life that just got stripped away. But then hearing him go through his sexuality throughout this album, and work through songs of going through that, especially being in a relationship and having a partner with the other vocalists in the band, and having to not only work through that, accepting of, people aren't going to be as accepting at times because not everyone's accepting of that stuff, but essentially owning it like it was, the movie 8 Mile. Yeah, now you're seeing, you're able to live a little bit more free. You're able to live a little bit more yourself, and you don't have to hide that stuff from the rest of the world. Now it's out there, and what are people going to say about it? Oh, yeah, they don't like it. So, we already said it. There's nothing you can do to change that fact. I mean, we already put it out there. Ooh, big stuff. But the fact that they took this idea and always had a spin of positivity and hope that you could cling on around there, that's the key. We need more of that. We need more of that ability to cling on to that kind of hope. I want to thank Matic for coming on the podcast. When it comes to Hei'An, go straight to the podcast below. Links, labels for everything for the band are going to be down there, where you can find the album, where you can listen to it, where you can find them online, where you can go see them play live shows, all that good kind of stuff. Also, be sure to follow us on the Chord Progression Podcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, links description below. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube, that's right down here. Hit the follow or subscribe button on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Help follow along with us on the audio-only side. Also, be sure to like the episodes as well, help push in the algorithm. I want to thank Matic for coming to the podcast. This was a fun one, man. And that's going to be me. Thank you for watching, listening to the Chord Progression Podcast. My name is Kevin, and you guys know how I end every single one. It's the big, healthy, and hearty. See ya! Yeah!